Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Great time to be talking about Prescient Therapeutics. We're an oncology company. We're developing innovative therapies for cancer and dedicated to cancer. I don't even have time to talk about all of the different arms to the business, but I'll just touch on it here and we'll whip through quickly. But on this slide, you can see our foundational assets there, our targeted therapies, PTX 100 and 200. They switch off problematic switches within a cancer cell that drive the cancer. They're in the clinic. That was 7 months ago. We were just that. Since then, we've strategically built out our pipeline into cell therapies, which, as the name suggests, using a living cell as a medicine. And this is changing the game for many, many different diseases and cancer especially. So today's announcement with Peter Mac fits into that column as well. We're doing another initiative there with another company. Really the game changer is OmniCAR, which is next generation CAR T therapy, where you're weaponizing your own immune cells against the cancer. And we've got a cherry on top with coronavirus program that the Doherty is doing, but we're focused on cancer. So if you can just flip over to the next slide, please. Again, we've been very, very busy. This isn't even updated, but lots and lots of news flow, and we've been very, very productive. On the next slide, you can see that our business model is really simple. License from the best, and we work with the best. All of our technologies are from the best institutes in the US, and we've worked from the leading lights all work with us. Bottom line is, it's sleep at night science. This is not it's not flashy or with no substance behind it. This is proper research from the best names in the business, and we're basically standing on their shoulders. So, and we continue to work with them post licensing. So we work with the best and punch well above our weight. So on the next couple of slides, I only have time to just touch on some of these clinical stage assets. PTX 100 is licensed from Yale. This is in the clinic at the moment. If you can move over to the next slide, please. There's a problematic switch called RAS, and this basically is driving so many different cancers. We're conducting a really innovative study called a basket study. Instead of looking at just gastric cancer or lung cancer, we don't care where in the body the cancer is, so long as it's driven by this particular mutation. When you think about it, you have more genetically in common with your relatives who may live in different postcodes than you do your next door neighbor who shares a very, very similar address to yours. And so it is with cancer. And we're now looking, instead of indiscriminate medicines, looking at very personalised therapies which address the problems that are driving the cancer, the switches. A couple of days ago, we announced that this study is progressing under the leadership of Miles Prince, arguably Australia's most renowned oncologist, cancer specialist. And we're already seeing clinical activity, patients who have failed many, many therapies showing stable disease or better. One patient's even showed improvement. So this is underway. This could be a game changer for Prescient just on its own. But I'll move over onto the next one. This is targeting a different type of switch called AKT. We've demonstrated this in 3 studies where we've got clinical activity so far. The first one being on the following slide is AML, which is an awful blood cancer. AML is the following slide, sorry. There we go. And the next, so what we can see on the following slide is that this guy was the first guy to get a treatment for AML approved in 40 years. This is a disease where you die right quick, unfortunately. It's really sad, 3 to 6 months from diagnosis. And in this study so far, we've had 3 complete cures, complete responses so far. So that's a fantastic outcome in this space. And we put out an announcement on this, that this is progressing as well. It's also been in 2 other studies. On the following slide, you'll see a breast cancer study. Next slide, please. Basically, this was a phase 2A study. We showed a 91% response rate. 2 women completely cured, 8 with partial responders. There was another patient who sadly passed away due to chemotherapy-related toxicities, but she had a massive tumour completely disappear. And on the following slide, please. is also ovarian cancer, where we've showed 80% disease control. So I realise I've just raced through 3 studies. Any one of them could be a company maker. Any one would typically be an ASX-listed company. So we've got PTX 100 in a really novel basket study. We've got PTX 200 in AML, and also data in breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Any one of these could be a game changer. But in the time I've got left, I want to tell you about the most exciting field probably of medicine altogether, and that is something called cell therapy. Next slide, please. Oh, by the way, COVID-19, the Doherty has selected 2 of our assets as priority 1 candidates, which is wonderful. It's a real cherry on the top for us. 2 free kicks in front of goal. We're focused on cancer. They're running, they think we've got a priority, 2 priority 1 candidates. This screening is going to take place in the next couple of months, and you can imagine the value that would add if they're positive. So moving on, please. So cell therapy enhancements. I'm going to talk to you about something called CAR-T, and this is so exciting. For the very first time in human medicine, we're daring to move the conversation about cancer towards a cure. And as the latest data point in this, at the world's biggest cancer conference just in June, once again, CAR-T stole the headlines. Johnson & Johnson announced that in a myeloma trial using this new modality called CAR-T, they had a 100% response rate. Like we have never seen anything like this in the history of medicine. And this is why CAR-T is gaining all of this attention. Next slide, please. And here's how the process works. A patient gets blood taken from them in the hospital. Moving back, please. From that, these things called T cells, which are the soldiers of the immune system, they're taken out of the patient. Now, these T cells don't currently recognize cancer because their receptors don't recognize the cancer. But outside of the body, we genetically engineer these receptors that are capable of recognizing the cancer. What we're doing by doing this, we're turning these little lapdogs that are sitting there bouncing around the cancer and don't recognize it. You put a new nose on that dog, and it is now capable of sniffing out and attacking all of these cancer cells. Millions of them are grown up, and they're infused back into the patient. So they're getting a turbocharged version of their own T cells. And T cells, nothing can get rid of foreign invaders like a T cell. It's the ultimate weapon against cancer. And that's why we've seen those stunning responses. Next slide, please. And it's not science fiction. This is a real product, or several real products today, saving real patients and earning real dollars. The University of Pennsylvania, an Ivy League uni in the US, were the ones to pioneer and maintain the world leaders in CAR-T. Novartis licensed the very first one in 2012. It's now approved. It's also approved in Australia for a couple of blood cancers. That little bag of cells there is $500,000 of treatment. And it's $500,000 because it works, and it's also a bespoke treatment, and it's opened the door to a multi-billion-dollar industry that is changing the face of cancer. Next slide, please. But with any new technology play, we see some challenges. As wonderful as CAR-T is, what's refreshing is this is as bad as it'll get. So this reminds me of almost VHS tapes. VHS tapes changed the way we view movies. We didn't have to go to a cinema anymore, but how many of you still have a video player? So what we've got here is these are some of the challenges confronting CAR-T, the time and cost of a bespoke treatment. Safety and control go hand in hand because this is actually a living medicine you're giving with no control post-infusion. And targets and escape. If the tumour mutates, all of a sudden this CAR-T has lost its nose again. Whoever can solve even one of these problems is going to change the game for everyone, including itself. And with the following slide, you'll be able to see this is the perfect introduction to OmniCAR, which we have licensed from the home of CAR-T, UPenn. Prescient is the first company since Novartis, I'm led to believe, that has successfully licensed a CAR-T technology from Penn. And it aims to solve these problems that I just described: safety, flexibility, control, and not only will work for us, but for work for third-party approaches. So this is a game changer from the people who invented this new modality. So next slide, please. It basically works by modularizing CAR T. You've got, basically one half of the Velcro sticking out of the cell, and the nose of the CAR T construct that finds and attaches to the cancer has the other bit of Velcro, and it forms a union inside the body that creates on-demand controllable tumor killing. This sounds simple, but how often do you see the most efficient solutions are those that are elegant and simple and maybe even obvious? And it is no truer than in this case right now. But on the following slide, you'll be able to see these are many of the limitations of current generation CAR T and how they can be solved with OmniCAR. And I'll just touch on these on some of the following slides. If you can move to the next one, please. At the moment, you've got no control over this living cell. You can only guess what the dose is going to be. You don't want to give so much that it's toxic and so little that it doesn't work. But with OmniCAR, you can actually titrate up the dose and have control for the very first time post-infusion. But more than that, if in the following slide, you'll see if there's a runaway event and a patient does happen to have a deleterious event, a toxicity, at the moment, sometimes this is killing patients because they're swarmed with inflammation as a result of these turbocharged cells. At the moment, the only way to do that is to treat the symptoms. But with OmniCAR, if you stop administering the binder, you can switch off the therapy inside the patient like a remote control. But more than that, you can safely reactivate it by re-administering the binder. So this feature alone is going to be a game changer to CAR T and be able to bring it to so many patients who aren't just at death's door, earlier in a disease process, and even things outside of cancer like autoimmunity, where the risk reward doesn't make sense. You change the risk equation, it changes the reward equation, and you can administer these therapies, life-saving therapies, to so many more patients. Next slide, please. As I said, one of the key chinks in the armor of CAR T is what happens if the tumor mutates. All of a sudden, the CAR T's lost its nose again. No longer, you can redirect this same cell product due to modularity by switching out the binder. You do not need to do another cell run, another administration. You can chase the cancer and hunt it down and kill it by switching out the binder. But on the next slide, you'll see something that's actually even more powerful, and that is targeting many of them all at once, many of these antigens all at once. That is not only going to provide a much broader upfront immune response, but it is going to prevent escape, and this is going to be so important in targeting solid tumours, which CAR T is yet to conquer. Why? Because solid tumours have many of these different antigens, these proteins on its surface, and this is the perfect way to address it. Next slide, please. And what we're showing on this slide is, basically you've got the unparalleled cancer killing capabilities of a T cell, and you're combining it with the control and flexibility of a drug. You give a little bit of binder, it will kill some of the cancer. You give more of the binder, you kill more of the cancer, and the subjects live longer. Basically, control and obedience is impossible to get in a biological system until now, which is just incredibly exciting. Next slide, please. So when you've got a platform that can do almost anything, what are we going to do? Well, we're undertaking a strategic review right now to cherry pick the absolute best of the best applications for us to create next generation CAR T therapies in-house, and we'll be articulating that very soon. That's going to be important. We've heard feedback from shareholders, Stephen, you've got the keys to a Ferrari, but where are you driving it? We're going to be announcing that in the coming quarter, and that is going to be a point on the horizon. We can articulate that development plan, and it's going to be very exciting. But just as important as all of that is the ability to collaborate with anyone else in CAR T. As the world moves towards CAR T, anyone wanting to make their products safer, more controllable, more flexible and adaptable, i.e. making next generation CAR T, they should be speaking to us. So we've got the ability to light as many fires as possible. This is its own scalable business model and has the potential to monetize this asset earlier and multiple times over. Instead of having to wait long into the future to monetize a development program, this sort of changes the whole business model for the company. Is highly relevant. Got the right drug, so the right platform at the right time in the right space. Next slide, please. And obviously there was a whole bunch of deal activity a couple of years ago, Kite being bought by Gilead, Juno bought by Celgene. In fact, the founding scientist of Juno has just joined our board Alan Ebens recently. He saw OmniCAR and just couldn't believe it. He said, Stephen, this is the holy grail of what Juno was trying to achieve. So what we've got now is this was the first generation. We're now got next generation. A second mouse will get the cheese, many believe. On the following slide, you'll see some evidence of the start of that. Is a company called Xiphos. They had a similar modular approach to CAR T that but without going into the detail, we believe OmniCAR is superior on many fronts. They were also at a similar stage of development, and they were bought out by Astellas on Boxing Day last year for $665 million US. Why? Because they're in cell therapy, they believe that's the future, but they could see the problems that they had and knew that modularity was the answer to their problems. So this is the first evidence that people are now looking at next generation approaches to really bring this to many more patients. And this is basically where we are at now. So next slide. So that's it. That's Prescient in a nutshell. You can see we've got these foundational assets. They're fantastic. They're being progressed now. We've got this second column here, third-party cell therapy enhancements. Peter Mac is the latest announcement of that. We again, license from the best and work with the best. And the game changer is OmniCAR. We've got the right product at the right time that's going to be relevant, not just for us, but to enable the entire field. We've got it from the home of CAR T, who developed this technology. And I think Australia should be very, very proud that we've managed to secure a really relevant, weaponizable asset like this in the fight against cancer. So that's the presentation from Prescient. I couldn't be more excited. All the planks are now in place. We're topping up our already healthy balance sheet at the moment with an SPP, which will close very shortly, and that's been very well subscribed. Really good time to be involved with us with all of these parts in place and the resources to really pursue them. So yeah, watch this space. Great time to be involved. Many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Stephen. A great Australian story and working on a good cause there. So in regards to your partnerships, we've got a couple of questions, kind of the same sort of theme. Novartis, so why don't they run with CAR T? Why do they need Prescient?
Well, yeah, they were crowding around the first one, and they were the first to market with their first generation. Without giving too much away, yeah, I agree with you. Why wouldn't they be interested in OmniCAR? We managed to snare this platform because whilst everyone was looking at the first generation, I was very focused on solving the problems that I articulated: control, flexibility, safety. And I went scouring the world for them and found this and found it before the patent was public and before the data was published. So basically no one knew about it. I took it off the market October, November last year. And if I didn't do it in that time frame, I don't think we would have got it. It was just being proactive and really good timing. The other point is, here's a funny thing about human behavior. People don't like being told that their children aren't the most beautiful children in the world. So whilst people are focused on first generation technologies, they are wedded to those technologies. Eventually what's happening now is people are acknowledging the fact that, okay, the limitations are safety, control, flexibility, and are now just starting to look for next generation opportunities. So once again, I think we've snared this at the right time.
And also, Stephen, your announcement today in terms of the research collaboration with Peter Mac, can you give us some more details on that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is about creating enhancements to first generation CAR T therapies and without giving too much away, increasing their efficiency and increasing their potency. And that is going to be relevant not just for first generation CAR T, but also for the next generation as well. And in a similar way, this is going to be like an Intel inside model. What we would like to do is this is going to produce technologies where we're going to be the Intel chip in everyone else's computer. And Peter Mac are at the forefront of this, and that's what we're developing, is things that are relevant today to third-party CAR T programs that, again, can be used in return for licenses.
And time for one more. Post the share purchase plan, you'll be in a strong position in regards to your balance sheet. What's the plan for that capital?
Yeah, that's right. That's going to be spread equally across all of our programs. So it is going to be in our clinical programs, but also really dedicated towards CAR T. we've got this new platform that deserves to be, resourced properly, and with more capital we can do some more things. So instead of just progressing it laterally, we're going to be broadening the platform and pushing several things all at once. And as I said, lighting as many fires as possible, and it should see us through 18 months and plenty of value added across all of our programs.